Why do some of you out there automatically assume that marriage is the inevitable conclusion to a relationship with a woman? This mentality is a big reason why we have so many black pillars and MGTOW guys out there complaining on the internet. They can't even bring themselves to enjoy the company of women because marriage laws are unfavorable to men. I get that, but why do you think you even have to get married in the first place? Why is that the inevitable conclusion? If you're new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer. I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. Now, a lot of you guys have this end state conditioning where you believe that if you're in a relationship with a woman, the inevitable end state must be marriage. I get that all the time. I've been dating my girl for going on 5 years now. I call her Nurse Chick. I often get people ask me, so when's the next step? And I always respond, why must there always be a next step? I kind of like where things are. I'm not putting a ring on it, but I don't have to. We have a great relationship without getting the government involved. But a lot of you guys believe you have to get married. Have you ever asked yourself where this thinking comes from? Why do you think this way? For most of you, it's because your parents did it. Or your parents are pressuring you to do it because that's what they did and that's what their parents did. Society says you should do it. By the way, if anyone says you should or shouldn't do anything, they're trying to manipulate you. Should is manipulative language, but I digress. Maybe you're religious, so you think it's sanctioned by God or something. I get that, but God didn't create that marriage license, that legal state marriage license. We'll get into that in a bit. A lot of you guys think that you have to get married because you want to show commitment. But commitment doesn't necessarily come from a one-sided government contract. You and your girl can choose to be committed to each other without getting the government involved. In fact, getting the government involved doesn't guarantee that she will continue to choose to be loyal and committed to you anyway. More on that in a bit. According to a book that a friend of mine wrote called Dilligaff, The Truth About Marriage in the USA, marriage licenses weren't even issued in the United States until around 1929. They were introduced to give the government a way to regulate, tax, and profit from relationships. They were also invented to prevent white people from marrying blacks and Native Americans. Before 1929, marriages were considered a private or religious union, and they were typically handled by families and churches. So even if you think that you have to get married because God wants you to get married or something like that, you still can. You just don't have to get the government involved in your relationship. You can go to a church and exchange vows that way. Let it be handled by the church if that's what your true values are. But just know, even if you go to a church and you exchange vows, there's still no guarantee that she's going to stick around. Which sort of leads me into the next reason why guys say they need to get married. A lot of guys think that they have to get a girl married because they need to lock her down, to take her off the market, to make her an honest woman or something like that. For you guys, I think it's very important for you to understand that there is no buffer from the sexual marketplace. A ring on her finger, a government license, none of that will stop her from potentially cheating on you or even leaving you someday. There's no guarantees that putting a ring on it or getting a government contract will keep her loyal and loving. Women's hypergamous nature is always at play, which means you always must constantly try to be her best possible option. If you're not her best possible option, she's going to start looking around. And that's where women cheat or they just straight up divorce you and leave you. And now with no-fault divorce, even getting Uncle Sam involved doesn't guarantee that she's going to stick around. Another thing that I hear guys say is that they need to get married because they want to have kids someday. Fun fact, you don't need a marriage license to have children. If you're worried about your name and your legacy, that's handled on the birth certificate anyway. It's not handled by the marriage certificate. You can put your name on the child's birth certificate and give your child your last name on the birth certificate. Your marriage license has nothing to do with it. You can also have your kids and your girl on your private insurance without being married. So why are you even doing it? Why must it be the inevitable end state for you? We can all pretty much agree that the legal institution of marriage is a bad deal for men. And there's no reason you can't have loving, caring, long-term relationships with women without getting the government involved. If you want to go into depth on this topic, Read my first book, Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18. It's available on Amazon and Audible. I go into depth on this. But until next time, like, subscribe, hit those notifications, and I will see you on the live stream tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.